In the far reaches of the galaxy, where stars flickered like distant dreams, the Galactic Council convened in the heart of their grand citadel. The council chamber, a vast expanse of shimmering crystal and polished metal, hummed with a low, resonant energy. Representatives from a myriad of species gathered, their diverse forms casting strange, shifting shadows on the walls. The latest communique had been startling. The Deathworlders, a once feared race, had broken free from their confinement. The Galactic Council had always maintained a wary peace with them, a race known for their unpredictable and often violent nature. The Deathworlders were a civilization born on a planet with harsh, lethal conditions, a world where survival demanded the strength and cunning of the most resilient beings in the galaxy. The leader of the council, an elder known as Thaler, stood at the head of the long, oval table. His form, a blend of humanoid and ethereal energy, glowed softly in the dim light. His eyes, ancient and wise, swept over the assembled counselors, each representing different corners of the galaxy. "This is unprecedented." Thaler's voice resonated, calm but laced with an edge of urgency. "The Deathworlders have never before escaped their confinement. Their release could mean a significant shift in the balance of power." A murmur of agreement, or perhaps concern, rippled through the chamber. Among the counselors was Reiner, a diplomat from the aquatic world of Neris. His tentacles fidgeted as he spoke. "We must consider the implications for every planet and species. If the Deathworlders are now free, they may seek to expand their influence." "Or they might seek revenge," interjected Lyra, the fierce warrior representative from the planet Pyrrhion. Her eyes, sharp and calculating, focused intently on Thaler. "Their history is one of conflict and retribution. We cannot ignore the possibility that they will aim to reassert dominance." As the council debated the potential threats and strategies, a lone figure observed from the shadows at the back of the chamber. This figure, cloaked in a dark robe, was none other than Saul, a rogue operative with connections to various factions across the galaxy. Sal's motives were shrouded in mystery, but their interest in the unfolding situation was palpable. Outside the Citadel, the galaxy continued its dance of light and darkness. Stars were born and died. Planets spun in their orbits, and life thrived in myriad forms. Yet, as the counselors discussed their next moves, the fate of the galaxy hung in a delicate balance, waiting to be tipped by the actions of the newly liberated Deathworlders. Unbeknownst to the council, the Deathworlders were already making their presence known. Their leaders, a formidable coalition of the most powerful figures from their civilization, had begun to assemble their forces. They were determined to reclaim their place in the galaxy, and their plans were as intricate and merciless as the harsh world from which they had come. Thus, the wheels of fate turned once more. As the counselors strategized and the Deathworlders plotted, the galaxy held its breath, watching as a new chapter began to unfold. And though the story of their struggle and reconciliation was just beginning, its echoes would ripple through the stars, shaping the destiny of countless worlds for eons to come. Feel free to let me know if you want to take the story in a specific direction or add any details. As the days turned into weeks, the Galactic Council's debate intensified. Strategists and diplomats alike scrambled to anticipate the Deathworlders' moves. The once clear lines of alliance and opposition began to blur as old rivalries and new threats emerged. In the shadowed corridors of the Deathworlders' new base of operations, the atmosphere was charged with a fervor that only the promise of freedom could ignite. Their leader, Calix, a towering figure with eyes like burning coals, addressed his followers with a voice that resonated with authority and passion. "We have been shackled long enough," Calix declared, his voice echoing through the cavernous hall. "Now we will reclaim what was stolen from us, our strength, our legacy, and our place among the stars. The galaxy will remember the Deathworlders as it never has before." The Deathworlders, despite their formidable nature, were not a monolithic entity. Among them, factions and rivalries simmered beneath the surface. Calix's rise to power was a significant victory, but it was clear that not all were in complete alignment with his vision. Some sought a more measured approach, advocating for diplomacy over conflict, while others yearned for outright conquest. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council chambers, A new figure had emerged, Era, an envoy from the planet Arcturus. Arcturus was known for its advanced technology and neutral stance in galactic affairs. Era's arrival was a breath of fresh air, her perspective offering a novel approach to the crisis. "Perhaps we are missing something crucial," Era proposed during a council meeting. "We focus so heavily on the threat posed by the Deathworlders that we overlook the potential for understanding. What if we sought a dialogue with them instead of preparing for all-out war?" The room fell silent as the counselors considered Era's suggestion. The idea was radical, challenging the long-standing protocol of preemptive measures. Feller, with his ancient wisdom, weighed the proposal carefully. "It is a risk," Feller finally said, his voice measured, "but it is also an opportunity. If we can find common ground, we might avert a greater conflict. I propose a diplomatic envoy be sent to open negotiations." The decision was made, and Era was chosen to lead the envoy. With a mix of apprehension and hope, she prepared to journey to the Deathworlders' stronghold. Her mission was fraught with danger, but the potential rewards were immense. As Era embarked on her voyage, the Deathworlders, too, were in the midst of their preparations. Calix and his council had begun to consolidate their power, fortifying their position and reaching out to potential allies. The galaxy was on edge, each side positioning itself for the upcoming encounter. The day of the meeting arrived. Era's ship, sleek and advanced, landed at the edge of the Deathworlders' territory. A tense silence enveloped the landing site as Era and her entourage disembarked. They were met by a contingent of Deathworlder guards, their imposing figures a stark reminder of the power they wielded. Calix himself awaited them, standing in stark contrast to the harsh environment of his world. His presence was both commanding and enigmatic. As Era approached, she could sense the weight of expectation and history hanging in the air. "Welcome," Calix said, his voice a deep rumble. "You have come to speak on behalf of the Galactic Council. What do you propose?" Era took a deep breath, her mind racing with the gravity of the moment. "We propose a dialogue," she began, her voice steady despite the intense scrutiny. "An opportunity to discuss our differences and explore possibilities for peace." Calix's eyes narrowed, studying Era with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. Peace is a fragile thing, and trust is even more so. What guarantees can you offer that this is not merely a prelude to another form of conflict? Era met his gaze with unwavering determination. "We offer our sincerity and a willingness to listen. We hope to find a path that respects both our interests and yours, but it must start with an open dialogue." The air crackled with tension as Calix considered her words. The outcome of this meeting would set the course for the future of the galaxy, and the stakes were higher than ever. The story continues to unfold as the galaxy watches, with every action and decision shaping the path ahead. Let me know if you'd like to explore specific events, characters, or conflicts in more detail. Calix's gaze lingered on Era, the silence stretching as he weighed her offer. The room was thick with anticipation, the Deathworlders' guards standing stoically as though carved from stone. Calix, with his commanding presence, finally broke the silence. "Very well," he said, his voice carrying a weight of authority. "We will agree to a dialogue. But know this, the Deathworlders are a people forged by conflict and survival. Our trust is not easily won." Era nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "I am prepared to earn that trust," she replied, her resolve firm. "Let us begin by discussing our immediate concerns and seeing where we can find common ground." As Era and Calix took their seats at a large circular table, an ancient symbol of unity and negotiation, representatives from both sides prepared for the discussions. The air was charged with a mix of hope and skepticism as they settled into their respective positions. The initial discussions were tense, with both sides carefully navigating their differences. Era outlined the Council's main concerns: security, the potential for expansionist ambitions, and the safety of the various species across the galaxy. Calix, in turn, spoke of the Deathworlders' desire for recognition and respect, emphasizing that their history of struggle and survival had forged a deep-seated sense of injustice and longing for equality. The conversations meandered through various topics, ranging from trade agreements to mutual defense pacts. Each side presented its arguments and counterpoints, and while there was progress, the road was fraught with obstacles. Meanwhile, back at the Galactic Council, Thaler and the other counselors anxiously awaited updates. The outcome of these talks could either pave the way for a new era of cooperation or plunge the galaxy into a new era of conflict. The weight of their decisions pressed heavily upon them, and they worked tirelessly to prepare for every eventuality. On the Deathworlders' side, Calix was not the only leader with a vested interest in the negotiations. Among the many factions and rivalries within their ranks, some saw the talks as an opportunity to further their own agendas. There were whispers of dissent and discontent among the ranks, as not all were convinced that diplomacy would lead to the desired results. One such faction, led by a charismatic but radical figure named Varric, saw the dialogue as a mere prelude to a more strategic position. Varric's supporters believed that only through displays of strength and dominance could the Deathworlders secure their place in the galaxy. They began to subtly undermine Calix's efforts, spreading dissent and preparing their own plans. Back on the negotiation table, Era and Calix reached a tentative agreement on several points, including the establishment of a joint council to oversee the implementation of their terms. This council would consist of representatives from both sides, tasked with ensuring that the agreements were honored and addressing any emerging issues. However, as the discussions continued, Era began to sense the undercurrents of discord within the Deathworlders. She had heard whispers of dissent among the guards and in the corridors of their stronghold. Determined to navigate these challenges, she requested a private audience with Calix. In the dimly lit chamber where they met, Era addressed the Deathworlder leader with a mixture of concern and determination. "There are factions among your people who seem dissatisfied with the progress," she said. "I fear that their discontent might undermine the very agreements we're trying to establish." Calix's expression darkened, his eyes reflecting a storm of thoughts. "You are perceptive," he admitted. "Not all of my people are convinced that diplomacy is the path forward. Varric and his faction have been vocal in their opposition, and their influence cannot be underestimated." Era nodded. "What can we do to address their concerns and ensure the stability of our agreements?" Calix's eyes hardened with resolve. "I must address these factions directly and reaffirm our commitment to the negotiated path. I cannot do it alone. If you can offer assurances and demonstrate your willingness to cooperate, it may help sway some of their opinions." With a new strategy in mind, Era agreed to support Calix's efforts. Together, they began working on a series of public statements and joint appearances aimed at reinforcing their commitment to peace and cooperation. Their goal was to present a united front and demonstrate to the Deathworlders that the path of diplomacy held tangible benefits for all. As the negotiations continued, the galaxy watched with bated breath. The outcome of these talks would have profound implications, not only for the immediate future but for the long-term stability and prosperity of countless worlds. The story of the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders was far from over. Each day brought new challenges and opportunities, and the threads of fate wove together in a complex tapestry of diplomacy, intrigue, and survival. And as the galaxy spun on, the actions of those involved would shape its destiny for generations to come. Feel free to guide the story in any specific direction or introduce new elements. As Era and Calix worked to bolster their joint efforts, Varric and his faction continued to maneuver in the shadows. Varric's influence was growing, fueled by the discontent of those who felt that the Deathworlders' future lay not in peaceful coexistence, but in asserting their dominance. He began to gather support from key military leaders and influential figures within the Deathworlder society. The tensions reached a boiling point during a grand assembly, where Calix was scheduled to speak. This assembly, intended to showcase the newfound alliance and unity between the Deathworlders and the Galactic Council, was instead overshadowed by Varric's planned disruption. The hall was filled with representatives from various factions and species, all eager to witness the progress of the negotiations. As Calix took the podium, his presence commanding and authoritative, he began to outline the benefits of the peace agreements. But just as he was about to highlight the mutual gains, the doors burst open and Varric, flanked by a group of loyalists, stormed into the hall. "Traitors!" Varric's voice boomed, cutting through the murmur of the crowd. "You speak of peace while plotting to bind our people under the yoke of foreign control. This is not our destiny." The assembly erupted into chaos. Delegates scrambled for cover, and a tense standoff unfolded between Varric's supporters and Calix's loyalists. Ira, caught in the middle, felt the gravity of the situation. She knew that any misstep could jeopardize the fragile peace process. Calix, his face a mask of determined calm, stepped forward. "Varric, you threatened to unravel everything we've worked for. This assembly was meant to mark a new era of cooperation. Instead, you bring discord." Varric's eyes flashed with defiance. "Your vision is one of subjugation, not cooperation. We will not be controlled by the Council's schemes." Ira, seizing the moment, stepped up beside Calix. "This is not the way to address your concerns," she called out. "If we cannot find common ground, we will never move forward. But this disruption only serves to harm our shared future." Her words echoed through the hall, and slowly the crowd began to settle, though the tension remained palpable. Calix, recognizing the need to de-escalate, extended an olive branch to Varric. "Let us discuss our differences openly," Calix proposed. "We can address your concerns without further violence, but this assembly is not the place for conflict." Varric, still bristling with anger, but recognizing the strategic advantage of negotiation over outright confrontation, grudgingly agreed. He signaled to his followers to stand down, and the assembly resumed, though the atmosphere was now heavy with uncertainty. In the days that followed, a series of private meetings were held to address the rift within the Deathworlders. Varric and his faction were given a platform to voice their grievances and propose alternative solutions. These discussions were tense and fraught with friction, but they also provided an opportunity for genuine dialogue. Ira and Calix worked tirelessly to mediate between the factions, striving to build bridges and find common ground. The meetings revealed deep-seated fears and aspirations among the Deathworlders, and though progress was slow, there were moments of understanding that hinted at potential breakthroughs. Meanwhile, in the Galactic Council's chambers, Thaler and the counselors watched the developments with a mixture of concern and hope. They remained committed to supporting the peace process, but were also preparing for any possible fallout. The balance of power in the galaxy was shifting, and the stakes had never been higher. As the weeks passed, the atmosphere gradually shifted from one of confrontation to cautious cooperation. Calix and Varric, though still at odds, began to work together on a revised set of agreements that addressed the core issues raised by the dissenting factions. These new terms, while not perfect, were seen as a step towards a more inclusive and balanced approach. Ira, now seen as a key mediator and advocate for peace, continued her efforts to build trust and solidarity between the parties. Her dedication to the cause earned her respect from both the Deathworlders and the Galactic Council, and she became a symbol of the possibility for harmony in the midst of conflict. The story of the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders was evolving, and the future remained uncertain. But as long as there were those willing to work towards understanding and reconciliation, there remained hope that the galaxy could find a path to coexistence amidst its vast and diverse tapestry. And so, the narrative continued to unfold, with every decision and action shaping the destiny of countless worlds. The journey was far from over, and the echoes of this epic struggle would resonate across the stars for generations to come. If you have any particular twists, characters, or themes you'd like to explore further, just let me know. As the revised agreements began to take shape, the fragile truce between Calix and Varric held, though it was clear that the road to lasting peace would be a complex and challenging one. The Galactic Council, under the watchful eye of Thaler, continued to support the peace process with cautious optimism. Their efforts were bolstered by a growing coalition of planets and species who saw the potential benefits of a united galaxy. However, not everyone was content with the unfolding developments. In the shadows, a clandestine group known as the Zenith Order had begun to make its presence felt. The Zenith Order was a secretive organization dedicated to manipulating galactic events to their advantage. They thrived on chaos and instability, believing that their vision of a galaxy controlled by a select few was the only path to true order. The Zenith Order saw the emerging peace between the Deathworlders and the Galactic Council as a threat to their plans. They began to orchestrate a series of covert operations designed to sabotage the negotiations and incite further conflict. Their operatives spread misinformation, conducted sabotage missions, and attempted to turn key figures against each other. Era, ever vigilant, began to notice signs of interference. The disruptions were subtle at first: unexplained delays, minor but persistent issues with communication, and the occasional act of sabotage. She reported her concerns to Calix and Thalor, who took the threat seriously but struggled to identify the source of the disruptions. In response, Thalor proposed an enhanced security protocol and a special task force to investigate the disturbances. This task force, led by an experienced intelligence officer named Callan, was tasked with uncovering the identity of the saboteurs and neutralizing their efforts. Callan's team worked tirelessly, sifting through the evidence and tracking down leads. Their investigation revealed a network of operatives working across multiple sectors of the galaxy. The Zenith Order's influence extended far and wide, and their ability to orchestrate chaos was more extensive than anticipated. As the task force closed in on the Zenith Order's network, they uncovered a plot to orchestrate a major crisis that could potentially ignite a full-scale war. The plan involved staging a dramatic attack on a neutral planet, making it appear as though the Deathworlders were responsible. This would not only jeopardize the peace process but also shift public sentiment against them. Callan and his team raced against the clock to prevent the attack. They worked in close coordination with Era, Calix, and Thalor, leveraging every available resource to thwart the Zenith Order's plans. Their efforts involved careful diplomacy, strategic countermeasures, and, at times, direct action to disrupt the saboteurs' operations. As the crisis reached its climax, Era and Calix, with the help of Callan's team, managed to expose the Zenith Order's machinations to the galaxy. They presented undeniable evidence of the sabotage and the attempted false flight operation. The revelation had a profound impact, shifting public opinion and garnering widespread support for the peace process. With the threat of the Zenith Order temporarily neutralized, the focus returned to the ongoing negotiations. The revised agreements were put into effect, and a new era of cooperation began to take shape. The Joint Council, comprising representatives from both the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders, worked diligently to implement the terms and address the remaining issues. The Deathworlders, once a people shrouded in conflict and mistrust, began to integrate more fully into the galactic community. Their contributions to the shared goals of peace and progress were acknowledged and valued. The galaxy, though still diverse and complex, began to experience the benefits of greater unity and collaboration. Era, Calix, and Thalor became symbols of this new era, their efforts serving as a testament to the power of diplomacy and perseverance. Their story, while far from over, became a beacon of hope for a galaxy that had faced its share of trials and tribulations. The Zenith Order, while dealt a significant blow, remained a lurking threat. Their influence and ambitions had not been entirely extinguished, and the galaxy continued to face challenges. But with each obstacle overcome, the foundation for a more harmonious future was laid. And so, as the stars continued to shine and the galaxy spun on, the saga of the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders wove a tapestry of struggle, resolution, and hope. The journey was ongoing, and the actions of its heroes would resonate through the ages, shaping the destiny of countless worlds. If you'd like to explore new plot twists, characters, or any particular scenarios, just let me know. As the galaxy began to settle into a new era of cooperation, the initial successes of the peace process were celebrated, but the complexities of maintaining unity became apparent. The newly formed Joint Council faced numerous challenges as it worked to implement the agreements and address the diverse needs of the galaxy's inhabitants. One of the most pressing issues was the integration of Deathworlder technologies and practices with those of the Galactic Council's member worlds. The Deathworlders' advanced but harsh technologies, born out of their extreme environment, clashed with the more refined and harmonious systems of the Council. Bridging this technological and cultural gap required delicate negotiation and creative solutions. Era, now a seasoned diplomat, took on the task of facilitating these integrations. She traveled to various planets, meeting with leaders and scientists to find common ground. Her efforts were crucial in ensuring that the technological advancements of the Deathworlders could be adapted for use across the galaxy without causing disruption. Meanwhile, Calix, who had grown into a respected leader, worked on fostering goodwill and cooperation among the Deathworlders. He emphasized the importance of building strong alliances and encouraged his people to embrace their role in the galactic community. Calix's leadership was instrumental in maintaining internal stability and ensuring that the Deathworlders remained committed to the peace process. Despite these efforts, the remnants of the Zenith Order remained a shadowy threat. Though their direct influence had been curtailed, their ideology continued to inspire dissenters and fringe elements. These groups, though fragmented, began to engage in sporadic acts of sabotage and misinformation, attempting to undermine the progress that had been made. One such incident involved the mysterious destruction of a critical supply line that transported resources between key planets. The attack was sophisticated and well coordinated, suggesting that the Zenith Order still had operatives in place. This act of sabotage disrupted essential supplies and caused panic among the affected populations. Kalen, now leading a specialized task force dedicated to counter-Zenith operations, was once again called into action. His team worked tirelessly to investigate the attack, tracing the origins of the sabotage and uncovering clues that pointed to a hidden cell of the Zenith Order. This cell was located on a remote and poorly monitored planet, making it difficult to pinpoint their exact location. Kalen, along with a contingent of elite operatives, embarked on a mission to locate and neutralize this hidden cell. The operation was risky, involving covert infiltration and high-stakes intelligence gathering. As they closed in on the cell's location, Kalen's team discovered that the Zenith Order was planning another major disruption, this time aimed at the heart of the peace process. Back on the front lines of diplomacy, Era and Calix were busy preparing for an upcoming summit that would bring together leaders from across the galaxy. The summit was intended to solidify the agreements and set the stage for a new era of collaboration. It was a critical moment, and any attempt to sabotage the summit could have devastating consequences. As Kalen's team prepared for their final assault on the Zenith Order's stronghold, Era and Calix worked to ensure the summit's security. They implemented stringent measures and coordinated with various security agencies to safeguard the event. The tension was palpable as the day of the summit approached. On the day of the summit, delegates from all over the galaxy gathered in a grand hall, adorned with symbols of unity and progress. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. As Era and Calix took their places, the delegates prepared to discuss the future of their shared goals. Just as the summit was about to begin, Kalen's team successfully executed their operation. They dismantled the Zenith Order's cell and prevented the planned disruption. The news of their success was kept under wraps to avoid causing alarm among the summit attendees. With the immediate threat neutralized, the summit proceeded smoothly. Era and Calix delivered speeches that emphasized the importance of unity and cooperation. The delegates engaged in productive discussions, and several new initiatives were proposed to enhance collaboration and address lingering issues. The summit marked a significant milestone in the ongoing peace process. It strengthened the bonds between the various factions and set the stage for future cooperation. The galaxy, though still faced with challenges, began to look toward a future shaped by collective efforts and shared aspirations. As the delegates departed and the summit concluded, the sense of optimism was palpable. The galaxy had weathered significant trials, and though the path ahead was still fraught with obstacles, the foundations for a more harmonious future had been firmly laid. The story of the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders continued to unfold, with each chapter bringing new developments and opportunities. The journey was far from over, but the progress made offered hope for a brighter future, a future where the galaxy's diverse inhabitants could coexist and thrive together. Feel free to suggest any additional elements or directions you'd like to explore. In the wake of the successful summit, the galaxy was abuzz with newfound hope and optimism. The agreements solidified during the summit were seen as a triumph of diplomacy and collaboration, offering a glimpse of a future where diverse civilizations could work together for mutual benefit. Yet the progress made did not go unnoticed by all. The remnants of the Zenith Order, though temporarily thwarted, were not fully eradicated. Their fragmented cells continued to operate in secrecy, waiting for the opportune moment to strike again. Their leaders, though diminished, were still plotting ways to disrupt the fragile peace. Among the galaxy's many worlds, the planet Viridian, known for its vast and resource-rich landscapes, became a focal point of interest. Viridian had long been a neutral ground, and its strategic location made it a valuable asset. Both the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders had expressed interest in collaborating with Viridian to enhance trade and resource sharing. However, the Zenith Order saw Viridian's importance as an opportunity. They orchestrated a plan to sow discord by inciting a major incident on the planet. Their strategy was to create a situation that would pit the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders against each other, potentially unraveling the recent progress. As tensions began to rise on Viridian, rumors spread of an impending conflict. Some of the planet's inhabitants were dissatisfied with the growing influence of external forces and feared the loss of their autonomy. The Zenith Order exploited these fears, inflaming local sentiments and orchestrating acts of sabotage designed to escalate the situation. Era, now deeply embedded in the peace process, received urgent reports of unrest on Viridian. She coordinated with Calix and Feller, recognizing the need for a swift and diplomatic response to prevent the situation from spiraling out of control. Calix, with his deep understanding of the Deathworlders' mindset, proposed a diplomatic mission to Viridian. His goal was to address the concerns of the planet's inhabitants directly and assure them of the benefits of cooperation. Era, with her expertise in interspecies diplomacy, agreed to accompany him. Upon arriving on Viridian, Calix and Era were met with a mixed reception. Some welcomed their presence, eager for dialogue and resolution, while others were suspicious and hostile. The situation was further complicated by sporadic acts of sabotage that created confusion and fear. Calix and Era worked tirelessly to engage with Viridian's leaders and address the concerns of its people. They emphasized the potential benefits of collaboration, including economic opportunities and enhanced security. Their efforts were bolstered by a joint team of Galactic Council and Deathworlder representatives, who worked to demonstrate their commitment to a peaceful resolution. As Calix and Era navigated the complex political landscape on Viridian, Kalen's task force continued its investigation into the Zenith Order's activities. Their efforts revealed a hidden base on the planet, where Zenith operatives were coordinating their sabotage operations and spreading misinformation. In a daring operation, Kalen and his team launched a covert assault on the Zenith Order's base. The mission was fraught with danger, but their objective was clear: to neutralize the operatives and dismantle their infrastructure. The operation was successful, and the Zenith Order's plans to incite conflict were thwarted. The exposure of the Zenith Order's involvement on Viridian played a crucial role in calming the situation. Era and Calix were able to present concrete evidence of external manipulation, which helped to reassure the planet's inhabitants and build trust in the peace process. With the immediate crisis averted, Viridian began to stabilize. The collaborative efforts of the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders, coupled with the successful counteroperation against the Zenith Order, demonstrated the effectiveness of unity and cooperation. As peace was restored on Viridian, the galaxy's leaders took the opportunity to reinforce their commitment to the agreements made during the summit. They continued to work together to address remaining issues and promote a vision of shared prosperity. The saga of the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders continued, with each challenge met by resilience and determination. The story was one of ongoing effort and adaptation, as the galaxy's diverse civilizations worked to build a future where collaboration and understanding could overcome division and discord. And as the stars shone brightly across the vast expanse of space, the legacy of their journey unfolded, a testament to the power of diplomacy, the strength of alliances, and the enduring hope for a harmonious galaxy. Feel free to suggest any new twists, characters, or scenarios you'd like to explore further. With the situation on Viridian resolved, the galaxy began to breathe a little easier. The diplomatic victories of Era, Calyx, and Thelor were celebrated across the stars, and the successful dismantling of the Zenith Order's plans provided a sense of relief. Yet even as the galaxy began to settle into a new era of cooperation, new challenges emerged on the horizon. The success on Viridian had not gone unnoticed. Several influential figures and factions across the galaxy saw the growing alliance as a threat to their own agendas. Some viewed the emerging unity as an opportunity to further their power and influence, while others feared losing their autonomy in the face of increasing centralization. One such figure was Lady Vespera, a powerful and enigmatic leader from the fringe world of Elysian. Vespera had long been a vocal critic of the Galactic Council, viewing it as a monolithic entity that sought to control the galaxy's diverse cultures and economies. She saw the rise of the Deathworlders as a potential means to disrupt the Council's dominance and realign the galaxy's power structures. Lady Vespera began to rally support from various fringe worlds and disaffected factions. Her charisma and strategic acumen allowed her to forge alliances with several influential leaders who were disillusioned with the current order. Together, they began to form a coalition of resistance against what they perceived as the encroaching influence of the Galactic Council and its newfound allies. As Vespera's coalition gained momentum, they began to orchestrate a series of disruptive actions aimed at destabilizing the galaxy. They targeted key supply routes, incited unrest on several fringe worlds, and conducted covert operations to undermine the stability of the peace agreements. The Galactic Council, aware of the growing unrest, called an emergency meeting to address the situation. Era, Calyx, and Thalor, who had become key figures in maintaining peace, were summoned to the Council's headquarters to discuss their strategy. During the meeting, Thalor addressed the councilors with a grave expression. The rise of Lady Vespera and her coalition poses a serious threat to the progress we've made. We must address this challenge with both diplomacy and strength. Calyx nodded in agreement. We need to understand the motivations behind Vespera's actions and find a way to address the underlying issues. At the same time, we must prepare to defend against any attempts to disrupt our efforts. Era, ever the diplomat, suggested a dual approach. We should open channels of communication with Vespera and her allies to explore the possibility of negotiation. Simultaneously, we need to bolster our defenses and ensure that our supply lines and key infrastructure are secure. As the councilors prepared their response, Kalen's task force was once again called into action. Their mission was to gather intelligence on Vespera's coalition, uncover their plans, and neutralize any immediate threats. Kalen's team, experienced and determined, worked to track down the coalition's operatives and disrupt their activities. The task force discovered that Lady Vespera was planning a major operation to strike at the heart of the Galactic Council's authority. Her coalition intended to launch a coordinated attack on several key facilities, aiming to create chaos and weaken the Council's grip on power. In response, the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders prepared a counter-strategy. Era and Calyx, working closely with Thalor, reached out to neutral and sympathetic worlds to build support for their cause. They emphasized the importance of maintaining stability and the benefits of a unified galaxy. Simultaneously, the task force executed a series of preemptive strikes against the coalition's supply lines and key operatives. The goal was to disrupt their plans and prevent the planned attacks from coming to fruition. The operation was risky but necessary to safeguard the peace process. As the conflict between Vespera's coalition and the Galactic Council escalated, the galaxy was once again thrust into a state of tension. The once promising era of unity faced new trials as factions clashed and allegiances shifted. In the midst of this turmoil, Era, Calyx, and Thalor remained steadfast in their commitment to peace. They continued their efforts to negotiate with Vespera's representatives, seeking to find a resolution that would address the grievances of the fringe worlds and reintegrate them into the galactic fold. The outcome of this struggle would have far-reaching implications for the galaxy. The actions taken by each faction, the decisions made by its leaders, and the resolution of the conflict would shape the future of the galaxy for years to come. And so, the story continued, with each chapter adding to the rich tapestry of the galaxy's history. The quest for unity and understanding persisted, driven by the resilience of those who dared to dream of a harmonious future amidst the stars. If there are specific elements or directions you'd like to explore further, let me know. As the tension between Lady Vespera's coalition and the Galactic Council intensified, the galaxy found itself on the brink of another major conflict. The coalition's aggressive actions and the Council's defensive measures created a charged atmosphere, with each side preparing for a possible confrontation. Era, Calyx, and Thalor, undeterred by the mounting challenges, continued their efforts to de-escalate the situation. Their diplomatic strategies were twofold. They aimed to address the legitimate concerns of the fringe worlds while simultaneously fortifying their defenses against potential attacks. Era, with her deep understanding of interspecies diplomacy, reached out to influential figures within the coalition. She sought to engage in dialogue with Lady Vespera, hoping to uncover any potential openings for negotiation. Despite Vespera's reputation for being elusive and secretive, Era was determined to find common ground. Meanwhile, Calyx focused on strengthening the alliances formed during the summit. He traveled to various planets, meeting with leaders and influential figures to reaffirm their commitment to the peace process. His efforts helped to stabilize regions that were beginning to feel the strain of the growing conflict. Thalor, with his extensive experience in galactic politics, worked on rallying support from the Galactic Council's member worlds. He emphasized the importance of unity and the risks posed by Vespera's coalition. His speeches and briefings helped to maintain morale and solidarity among the Council's allies. Kalen's task force continued their operations, working to uncover the full extent of Vespera's plans. They discovered that the coalition had been planning a series of coordinated strikes designed to cripple key infrastructure and sow discord. The task force identified several critical targets, including communication hubs and resource processing centers. In a high-stakes operation, Kalen's team successfully disrupted several of these targets, preventing immediate damage and buying crucial time for the Galactic Council and its allies. The task force also managed to capture several key operatives, providing valuable intelligence about the coalition's operations and future plans. Despite these successes, Lady Vespera remained a formidable adversary. Her ability to rally support and manipulate dissenters posed a significant challenge. The coalition's influence continued to grow, and Vespera's vision of a restructured galaxy resonated with those who felt marginalized by the current order. Era, in a bold move, proposed a grand diplomatic initiative, a summit to be held on a neutral world where representatives from both sides could come together for open dialogue. The goal was to address the core issues driving the conflict and explore potential solutions. The proposal was met with cautious optimism by some but faced resistance from others who doubted the feasibility of a peaceful resolution. Calyx and Thalor supported Era's initiative, seeing it as a crucial opportunity to address the underlying grievances and find a path forward. They worked tirelessly to prepare for the summit, ensuring that all relevant parties were invited and that the venue was secure. As the date of the summit approached, the galaxy's inhabitants watched with bated breath. The potential for a breakthrough or a breakdown was palpable, and the stakes had never been higher. The summit represented a critical juncture in the ongoing struggle for peace and stability. On the day of the summit, representatives from the Galactic Council, the Deathworlders, and Lady Vespera's coalition gathered on the neutral world of Lizora. The planet, known for its serene landscapes and neutral status, provided a fitting backdrop for this high-stakes meeting. Era, Calyx, and Thalor took their places alongside Vespera and her delegates. The opening moments of the summit were tense, as both sides prepared to present their positions and negotiate their demands. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, and every word spoken carried significant weight. Lady Vespera, with her commanding presence, addressed the assembly. We stand at a crossroads. The current order has failed to address the needs and aspirations of many. We must consider alternative paths if we are to achieve true justice and equity. Era, taking a deep breath, responded with equal gravity. We acknowledge the concerns that have been raised and are committed to addressing them. However, the path to resolution must be one of mutual respect and collaboration, not conflict. As the summit progressed, discussions were marked by both intense debates and moments of agreement. The representatives from the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders presented their case for continued cooperation and mutual benefit. Vespera and her coalition expressed their demands for greater autonomy and reforms to address perceived injustices. The negotiations were complex and often fraught with disagreement, but the summit provided a platform for dialogue that had been previously lacking. Both sides presented proposals, and compromises were explored. The process was slow, but there were glimmers of hope as common ground was discovered. Amidst the discussions, Ira and Vespera engaged in a series of private conversations. Ira sought to understand Vespera's deeper motivations and concerns, while Vespera was encouraged to consider the broader implications of her actions. As the summit drew to a close, the participants emerged with a tentative agreement. While not all issues were resolved, a framework for continued negotiation and reform was established. The summit marked a crucial step toward addressing the underlying grievances and building a more inclusive and equitable galactic order. The galaxy, though still facing challenges, took a collective breath as the immediate threat of conflict receded. The efforts of Ira, Calix, Thaler, and many others had laid the groundwork for a new era of diplomacy and collaboration. The story of the Galactic Council and the Deathworlders continued, with the promise of further progress and the ever-present potential for new trials. The galaxy's journey toward unity was ongoing, driven by the resilience and determination of those who believed in a better future among the stars.